food should be grown in the city. It should be close to us, where we get it fresh, where it's, doesn't take up as much energy. And as I learned that, I'm like, okay, what's the most efficient ways of growing food in the city, because there's no dirt or very little. And so I just started exploring that a little.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the podcast today. My name is Taylor Schaberg. I'm the owner of Active Grow, and I'm really excited to host guests on this show that discuss with me their passion about cultivation, as well as their passion of entrepreneurship, and how sustainability can play such a huge role in both of those. So today I'm really excited to introduce our second guest. His name is Lee Kindell. He is a hydroponic grower who has started his own pizza restaurant in Seattle, Washington, and it has since expanded to 3 stores in the Seattle area. He's a super passionate guy.
I believe that we should have fresh food, therefore I'm going to have it. I believe we should grow our own food, so I'm going to grow it. So I want to make sure that I'm showcasing my belief.
And he's an inspiration to growers everywhere and people that just want to get out there and start, growing or going after whatever they're passionate about. So without further ado, this is Lee Kindell, episode 2 of Get Up and Grow podcast. Hi, Lee. Welcome to the podcast. It's great to see you again.
What's up, my man, Taylor? Good to see you too.
Yeah, really excited to have you on the show. Lee Kindell is a great friend of mine. We've known each other for years now. I have a lot of questions for you about your business and how you've integrated gardening into it, and how things have gone during the pandemic and where you're going now. But let's just get started with the basics. So you are Seattle area, born and raised?
No, I was actually born in the Philippines, and my father was military, so we did a bunch of traveling, and then ended up in the States, and Seattle was my landing ground for our family.
Okay, I thought I read that so you grew up around Bremerton, is that correct?
Yep, which is a naval base, which explains everything right there.
Okay, wow. So super interesting. Okay, and what kind of things did you get into growing up around Bremerton and the Seattle area?
Not much. Like I began with, I went to school, high school there, and during high school, I did a couple of sports, but not much. But I got into martial arts, and I've been in it my whole life. And I think that kind of had a much more impact on me than where I lived. So
Sure.
My first chance at 17 years old, I hopped the water and got a job here in Seattle, and I've been here since. So it's not surprising that this is my spot, and this is where I've been.
Okay, that's awesome. And before you started MOTO Pizza, which has been in business now 5-6 years?
3 years now.
Oh, wow. It's just with your progress, it seems longer. So before that, you were in another business in the Seattle area. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so when I moved here when I was 17, I got a job waiting tables and just a bunch of odd jobs trying to figure out who I was and what I was going to do. And every occasion that I could get, I started traveling a little bit. And backpacking became a big part of what I love to do. Traveling hostels made it really economical, as it is today. And, I stayed in hostels, and, they're a little bit different than they were back then. But still the same idea where you share a room with somebody and cut your expenses down. And then in that traveling, I actually met my wife in a hostel, and she's from Toronto, Canada. And eventually, after dating for a while, I was like, hey, let's open a hostel together. We did, and we ended up getting married. And we've been doing that for 14 years. And with a few awards here and there, we did really well. Had a total of 3 hostels and a boutique hotel. And then when COVID hit, It was devastating to us, and I didn't think we were going to recover. So I was like, let's get out of the game. But it was very strategic. I mean, we could have got through COVID, but I was not seeing travel coming back for a while, and especially the financial world as it is today. I don't, what's in light of what's happened in the past, few weeks and the weekend. I don't see it coming back anytime soon.
Mm.
International travel for leisure. So we got out, which was a really hard decision, but I think it was a smart decision. And I decided to pivot, and my pivot was to make pizza because I would make pizza for travelers, and
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. And I decided, to find this little tiny space, and we got a little space that was maybe 500 square feet. And I was like, hey, all we got to do is sell 40 pizzas a night, and we'll be okay. And boy, did that not turn out the way that I expected it to. So we end up having like a 3 month wait for our pizza at the beginning, and we've had that since. So I've opened up 3 locations, and I don't think I told you this part, that I actually closed the deal, and I'm in the T-Mobile baseball stadium for the baseball season this year.
I think I read that online. That's a new
Yeah,
piece of news. That's insane.
yeah,
So, wow. What does that mean? That means you're gonna have to feed thousands of mouths every
yeah,
time they
yeah,
play a sport. Every time they play a baseball
yeah,
game.
yeah. That's exactly what it means. So it's going to be I've never done anything like that before, so it's going to be interesting.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah,
Let's okay. That's a lot. Let's maybe we can backtrack a little bit to back when you were in the hostel. I kind of want to just know a little bit about your gardening integration into the hostel because I remember you had some hydroponics set up back then.
oh yeah, oh yeah. So like, I've always believed that this our food system is kind of broken, and I've always thought like, it's rare that I actually get a fruit or a vegetable that I was like, wow, this is delicious. You know what I mean? And like, everything I eat just felt so dead. And then as I kind of learned and did my own kind of research, I just kind of came to the conclusion that, farming is done wrong. I mean, I think it being hundreds of miles away and then being shipped to us um, is both horrible nutrition wise, and then also economically, the energy that it takes to get that food to us on huge scales is wrong. And I just came up with the conclusion. Well, I didn't come up with it. It was through my research and listening to a lot of podcasts like this and other things that, food should be grown in the city. It should be close to us where we get it fresh, where it's, doesn't take up as much energy. And as I learned that, I'm like, okay, what's the most efficient ways of growing food in the city? Because there's no dirt or very little. And so I just started exploring that a little bit. I first started out with a bucket, growing out of 5 gallon buckets. And then I discovered the Japanese scientist, I can't recall his name right now, but,
Hmm.
the sub irrigation planters. And that was really fascinating to me, the access to oxygen for plants and water and not using dirt. And then that really sparked a flame in me, so I started chasing aquaponics, and or hydroponics, and then that led me to
Hmm.
aquaponics. And so I ended up building a large tank of tilapia and growing food out of that. And then our second hostel, which had a giant roof on it, I started experimenting with sub irrigation planters and aquaponics and hydroponics, and uh, ended up getting bees to help pollinate the plant. So I kept bees, which I totally fell in love with. I keep bees to this day, and
Hmm.
so I just kind of saw this fully integrated system that was very mimicked natural biology, and yeah, it was pretty successful. And I wanted to really carry that more. And I still believe stronger than ever that farming should be done in the city. And um, yeah, I've been written in a couple publications about my kind of farming techniques and what I've
Yeah.
done. And I, I mean, I really believe in this so much. I've actually built it into my pizza model.
Hmm.
So once we left the hostels, I integrated that right away into my pizza model. So this location that I'm building in Belltown actually has hydroponics in it that I'm building up with the help of you, of course, and your lighting. And then I partnered with Northwest Farms, so
Hmm.
I got some vertical platforms to grow off to test with, and and now I'm exploring mycology and mushrooms. So I'm kind of tying all that together, and then part of Moto, which is my pizza place, the plan is to kind of that's going to fork off that growing into its own kind of in-city farm. But I'm integrating it into the pizza place I'm building out right now, which is our
Wow.
third one. Yeah.
Wow. So super ambitious plans, and you're making it happen. I mean, you don't just talk the talk, you're walking the walk. Like you do have you have your third store open, you're working with T-Mobile Stadium, and I was just like, and now feeding the planets next, like, and mycology. Wow. Okay. So what's next to discuss? You said you were self-taught with the pizza making. How, like, what inspired, what got you to a point where you were realizing that, okay, I have something good enough that I could share with the world? And like, what inspired Moto Pizza, the idea of Moto? You said you traveled in Asia a bit. Did that have something to do with it?
Yeah, this kind of all ties together, which is really interesting because it really ties in together with the hostels because the coming together of people with food is it's our thing, right? And there's like
Hmm.
nobody that is there's no exception to anybody in the world who comes together with food with anybody, right? So it's such a beautiful central point of experience in our culture, and that was a big deal at the hostel, and the inspiration for Moto does. Yeah, you're right. It does come from my travels. Uh, I think the night markets were the biggest inspiration for me. I just love the energy, the food, the people, especially in Asia and Europe. Like the night markets there were spectacular. I can't believe we don't have more of those here in the U.S.
Hmm.
Which it needs to happen. And I know a guy who's trying to get it up and running here in Seattle, and I'm trying to help him if any way I can. But anyways, I think the experiential part of food is, in our culture and as just a simple human being is sharing food, right? So this all ties together to me, the sharing of food, the growing of food, and it really gets us in touch with our humanity. And uh, when when I was inspired by the night markets, I wanted something that people wanted, a place where people would meet, share experience, and it really just comes down to the sharing that experience and love, right? So I have this really big picture of how this all ties together, and yeah, I kind of lost track of what I was saying there, but yeah, the origin of moto, which kind of means in Japanese, it means like the original idea, and I really love that, how that ties in with what I'm thinking of, and I think the original idea for me is, humanity. We always came together, and to break bread and, to be together. So, you know, to me, that's the original idea for all things we do. And,
That's, yeah.
and that also mean in another, for I think in Latin, it kind of translates to constantly moving or always moving. So I just love that word and the origin of it. So yeah, that kind of led me to everything that I do right now.
And this pizza, it isn't just, I mean, you must have been making pizza for a while to create what you created with the sourdough. It's kind of a Detroit style. Could you describe the pizza a little bit?
Yeah, it's I'm a huge believer in, what you're putting into your mouth. And even though I love junk food and candy and processed food, I'm trying to do less and less of that. But, with that said, as I hone my craft, I believe in the best ingredients and the most natural ingredients and the freshest ingredients. So I begin with a sourdough starter that is this beautiful way of baking bread, and it's essentially just a fermented yeasted starter that helps your bread grow and expand and add beautiful crumb and texture and flavor to it. So I've collected starters from chefs all over the world and added it to mine and created like a Frankenstein starter, I like to call it. But that's one of my fun little experiments. Like I'll take it to the ocean and let the ocean air, because like yeast is everywhere you go. So, and you're breathing it in, it's everywhere in the air. So I'll take it to the ocean to kind of add flavor and texture and layers, and I'll take it to the forest and just open the jar and let it breathe. So I do weird stuff like that. But I love, I partnered with Northwest Farms. I get their fresh arugula, which is done hydroponically. So it's basically cut fresh for me that day, that I get the order. And it's amazing how long it lasts. Typically when you buy arugula in the store, it lasts you maybe a day or two. This stuff
Mm-hmm.
is so fresh and so strong. It will last the entire week. It's crazy. And the bite is beautiful. So it speaks to how important it is to get that food fresh, because we know that the stuff in the store has been traveling for a week, if not more longer.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I try to source as many fresh ingredients locally that I can. And I know this kind of locally food farm to table is overhyped and overused, but, that's really, I have a guy that they're called Wild Forage. They used to be Forage and Farm, but they changed their handle. And they collect fresh mushrooms for me for my pizza, right? So it's super handcrafted. Like I actually started making dough by hand until I hurt my arm. And then when I had to get a mixer, it really kind of switched my thinking, and I became this huge advocate for technology. So I went to the extreme other side, and I utilized equipment, and now I bring on technology. I partnered with a robotics company to do a pizza robot that helps with the precision of me making lots of pizzas. So I'm kind of tying all of this together with robotics and technology. So I think you can have super crafted food and utilize technology. And I don't think I think if you're not utilizing technology now, you're already behind the game. So I think, the growing of our food, utilizing technology gives us a better product. And I think the same thing with my craft, because I was this like hand crafter, and it must be done with, intention and love. I think just like you're using your hands, you can use technology and equipment with that same intention.
Right. Yeah. So that's today. I kind of want to step back back to when we met for the first time, and you had just opened up this little shop in West Seattle. You said you moved from the hostel to West Seattle right as the pandemic started, but so restaurants were closed, so pizza wasn't necessarily like the easiest thing to do. And then what are some other factors? It was West Seattle, so we had an issue at the time with the bridge, correct?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, the bridge, they called it the island because West Seattle was like a peninsula, and the peninsula kind of wrapped around like this. So the bridge was the shortcut to get to West Seattle from downtown Seattle. So without the bridge shortcut, you had to go all the way around this water onto the peninsula to get to there. But I wasn't super concerned, because when I read the demographics of the place of West Seattle, 70,000 people is like a small town, small city. So I thought, okay, 70,000 people can support a small thing like this. So I used technology and information to kind of be like, okay, this could work even without a bridge. But, so I wanted something affordable. So the 500 square feet was less than $3,000 a month. And I was like, okay, I can make this work. And even though people thought I was crazy doing it, including my family, because access was difficult, I really believe that if you build it, they will come, kind of thing, right? So this little
Right.
500 square foot, it's actually a little house, and so I used a window because of COVID. So you just walk up to the window and you get your pizza from the window. And it worked really well. And I think a lot of places, like I said earlier, that if you can take advantage of down times, things can happen. and so it went bonkers out of this little teeny tiny house, and people came from hundreds of miles away, which was shocking to me.
How long are people waiting for a pizza now?
Well,
Or were they at the
yeah,
longest time?
yeah. Well, what's funny is it's March right now, and I with the the new location in Edmonds opened up, I thought that would drop, but both locations are now out till June.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you? I was lucky enough to live right next to Moto, so I had a special. There was the trick was to show up at 4 o'clock, and if you were lucky, you could get a pizza made, which you were kind enough to do for the people that showed up. Do you still offer that service in Edmonds?
Yeah, I just started that and it's working well. And that's not, we're doing 250 pizzas a night roughly. And, to do, 30 to 50 extra walk-in pizzas works out really well for us. It helps meet the demand a little bit more, but not much. And we're
Right.
not really advertising that because I like it to be
Right.
kind of a secret that people just find out, so people are slowly finding out, actually quickly finding out because we're selling out really, really fast. So,
Hmm.
yeah, but it's still not out there that we do that. So it's a good
Okay.
thing and a bad thing. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, you mentioned kind of adversity and how you faced that during COVID times, and you know, you're such a positive person. Is that keeping a positive mindset part of that adversity, facing it, or do you have some other tricks that might be practical during your expansion?
Yeah, I think I think my greatest strength is that, I don't care. I don't care what people think. I don't care, you know, I don't care if things go south. I'm okay risking it all. You know what I mean? Like, I think we all too often just out of fear hold on to things, and out of fear, don't jump off that cliff. I like to say I jump and I build the plane on the way down. So yeah, it's more kind of, to me it ties in with life. You got to really just explore it and enjoy it, and take chances and take risks. And when you really look at it, no matter how bad things have been before in your life, or what you've done, you've always gotten through it, and you've always found
Hmm.
a way through it. So why sweat it? Because you'll eventually find your way through it. So like, I'm not worried if COVID, you know, spikes, or, we have a bank run or anything like that, like we'll get through it. So
Right.
I don't have a lot of fear when it comes to that, and I just go for it.
Nice. Yeah. There's a host of problems that could be happening today, so it's like do what you can while you can.
Exactly.
Um, so if I was a listener to this podcast and I've never been to your shop in Seattle, either of them, how would you paint a picture of your store for someone that's not experienced Moto Pizza?
That's a great question. I kind of think of Moto as a full experience, meaning that it's not just about getting the pizza. And I think this is where a lot of our success comes from, is that, I look at it as an experience. So from the moment that you find us online, through other fans like posting about us, or you
Mm.
see our website, it's very colorful and playful. And when you come into our restaurant, it's very playful. We say hi to everybody. It's kind of ridiculous how we can be so enthusiastic at times. And the colors and the characters are super colorful and large and bold. And I like to think that every person I look at that looks at our place and experiences it, it kind of brings the childlike nature of who you are out, um, and then my pie, like when you bite into my pie, it's unique in the way that I like to say it tells a story. And as you eat through this pizza, I curate it almost, so you can't just get, hey, I'm a pepperoni and mushroom fan. That's not the game I play, because you can get that anywhere, right? So my pies are very curated, so it takes you on this journey. So you can't have a custom pie. It is the 12 or 13 pies that I make, and that's it. Um, and
Right.
I think that's the thing that adds to our uniqueness. So yeah, when you come in, you definitely get an experience that's unusual for a pizza place, and then the pizza itself is unusual, and I call that's why I call it odd pizza, because
Mhm.
it is an odd experience and it is an odd pizza, but and also in form too. So it's a lot of people know what a square pizza is or a Detroit pizza. It is that, but it's accumulation of all my pizza making. So I would say it's got a little bit of like East Coast grit to it. It's got a little Midwest love. It's got the Pacific Northwest warmth, and and the travels from Asia, and of course me being Filipino, part of my culture is embedded in this pizza, and the love of European food and the quality of it. All of it comes together to make this one odd pizza. And yeah, that's definitely how I would describe it to anybody who hasn't been. And if you get a chance, you got to stop by Seattle and give it a try.
Yeah, you do. It's delicious, absolutely delicious. Um, you recently opened up two stores, so you have a third store on the way. What can we say about that store?
That one's going to be very special. That's the one that I'm building out the full aquaponic system that I'm going to have the robotics in. I'm going to have an experimental kitchen, and I'm trying to build. You remember how like tool libraries were really cool, and you could check out a tool, and
Hmm.
yeah. So I'm kind of building a kitchen library where you can like check out equipment, that you don't have if you want to experiment and kind of play with your food a little, like offer, unique classes and trying new things. As I experiment with food and I learn more about it, I'm personally, I'm like playing with a little bit more higher end culinary techniques,
Hmm.
and I don't know what I'm doing. Everything I learn is from the internet. So, um, yeah, I want other people to have the ability to do that, because I think with a limited food supply chain coming, I think being creative with food is really important. As
Hmm.
prices are rising ridiculously, I think being prepared and just knowing how to prepare your food and how to, and I'm not like a doomsayer or anything like that. It's just very practical, right? You just watch prices climb. I'm already watching what my eggs, for example. That's ridiculous. I'm gonna get my
Hmm.
own. I'm gonna get my own chickens or quails and start my own eggs again. Oh, by the way, I did have chickens at the hostel and I loved it. So like, I can see me doing that again, especially with this craziness. But yeah, I think it's important to know how to play with your food. So, Belltown's going to have all these mini components to it. Yeah, and we'll see how it goes. It's going to be really fun. And I started a YouTube channel for it, called Moto
Oh,
Moto Pizza, and I'm going to start kind of showcasing some of those crazy things I'm doing.
that's awesome. I know that on Instagram you like to go around and try other people's pizza around the Seattle area.
Yeah,
So that's super unique. Like you don't trash your competition. You love your competition. You show them who you are. Like tell us about that.
yeah. It's funny. I love pie, and I wanted to do something like that. And being a pizza place, people were like, yeah, be careful, because somebody's gonna like, they're gonna come and rate you. And I'm like, I don't care if somebody comes and rates me. And then I thought, you know what? I'm not gonna do a rating. I'm just gonna go out and say what I like about that pizza, because I love all pizza, from, cheap $1 pizza in New York, frozen pizza. You know what I mean? I love it all. Some is just better than others, and they all have their place, right? So I'm like, go out and I just eat every kind of pizza there is. And then I shout them out and I'm like, hey, this is a great little pizza joint. Get out there, support local small business, be adventurous. Don't eat the same pizza every day. You know what I mean? Like people say, oh, yeah, this is, pizza A is my spot. I'm going to go there. I go there. That's the one, but get out there and try it. There's so many unique things. So I live what I say. So I love going out there, and all ships rise with the tide. If you're lifting everybody up, you're lifting yourself up. So yeah, I love that. It's a lot of fun for me. And
Yeah,
people
that's
are,
nice.
yeah, people are, sorry to interrupt, but people are
No.
responding in such a positive way. They're like, that is so cool, and it's like, oh my God, I never knew that spot existed. I'm going to it. So yeah, it proves the service, and helps build other businesses up. I absolutely adore doing that.
No, it's awesome. It applies to everything, if you can go out and do that, support, who you're working with alongside, it's absolutely necessary. And it's just something people don't do. It's just so, but it's beautiful how you do that. To go back to like your expansion, and I know that comes with that, you're having to hire new employees. What kind of, values do you instill in your employees when they join you? What kind of people are you looking for?
That's a great question. I have a lot of people, like entrepreneurs, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you get such great people? How do you get them to stay? I mean, how do you even get anybody? This is like what do they call it? The great resignation right now,
Uh,
and I think people are not wanting to not work. That's not the problem. People want to be taken care of. They want to be heard. They want to be part of something, right? So I think first and foremost is, taking care of your people. So when I bring people on, I always have a conversation. And one of my sayings is hire slow, meaning get to know them, make sure you're aligned, and fire fast. If they're not vibing with you, move them on, because there's no point, right? It's like you want people that are going to align with you and your ideas and where you're taking the business in long term. And when I ask people, when I have an interview with someone, I don't ask just what's going to make them a good worker. I ask them, what is their long term plan? What do they want to do? Where do they want to go? What do they see themselves in a couple years or 5 years? And I want to make sure that I align with their plan when I'm asking them to align with my plan. So I think that's really important, and it also is part of making them feel heard. So there's great value in that. And I think you're kind of laying the groundwork for a longer term relationship, right? And then, and of course, I pay well. So, starting from what would people consider, I don't like using this term, but, from the lowest position. But to me, everybody is the same. And that's why I start everybody the same. So my dishwasher starts at $24 an hour, and I pay insurance, and medical insurance, and, plus tips. That turns out to be between 32 and $36 an hour, plus their insurance. It's generous. I would love to pay more, but my model doesn't allow that. So,
hmm.
but I don't need a lot of money. I'm not greedy. I'm more about the experience in this life and what you can do with it, and try to be as generous as possible. So yeah, and that's a big part of taking care of my employees. And what I think the biggest thing that I try to teach, learn, or pass on is that we are each personally responsible for our behavior and our actions and what we say. And that resonates into the world around you. And if you're taking care of that, you're going to exceed what your plans are. So it not just benefits the people around you, it benefits you. And in taking that personal responsibility, that means you're taking responsibility for the people around you, not for their actions, but for your actions, meaning like, how do I take care of this person next to me? How do I take care of the person that, I'm setting up for when I leave this job, when I leave this work today, the person that comes in after me, how am I taking care of them? And creating this atmosphere. Like, I don't even really have managers in my store. The employees run the place, and
Hmm.
it's because of that responsibility. As I grow, I definitely, I just hired a CEO, a COO, and then
Right.
a general manager that kind of looks after all three spaces, because as you grow, you need to have, organization. But as I started, I didn't have that, but I think it was building a really good foundation to make it easier for everybody.
Wow. Okay. That's you've come a long way. The
Yeah.
CEO and COO. I don't think you had those when I talked
Nope.
to you last.
Nope. Oh yeah,
Well, good
because
for you.
I'm bringing on venture capital, so like that's a big part of what I'm doing too.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's great for the business and your expansion and everything. I kind of wanted to change gears into the gardening again. I know you have many plant-based options on your menu. Can you tell us how your love of gardening kind of ended up on the plate?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, I think the idea we spoke of earlier is this, the freshness of the food and growing
Yeah.
it myself, clipping it and putting it on that pizza the same day is kind of insane. I love that. But it also adds like, beautiful texture and color and that the freshness of that with the vegetarian pizzas, and I have a few of them, I think is kind of showcasing what I believe. Like I believe that we should have fresh food, therefore I'm going to have it. I believe we should grow our own food, so I'm going to grow it. So I want to make sure that I'm showcasing my beliefs in what we do, to help educate and to help you know to show that, hey, this is really simple. Like I'm going to have these 5 gallon buckets, and oh, I got my first 3D printer so I can build these lids that can connect two mason jars together, top to top this way, and grow
Hmm.
and grow sprouts in it, and then people can have their own little farm in their house, just growing sprouts to start with, right? So um, I think the farming aspect tying in with the pizzas is really key, because when you just show something, it's just showing it. But when you show something and showing it working, and then an application that ties directly to them, that's when it becomes inspirational, right? And then that's what I want to do, is create inspiration. So when they can visually see the farm that we're building out and it goes directly onto the pizza, that's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it's not outsourced, it's all in-house. You're getting the freshest of the fresh that way. So, yeah, I also know that you're a huge fan of mushrooms. You're a passionate mushroom grower. How did you get into growing your own mushrooms, and what can you share with us about
Yeah.
that?
So I'm gonna throw it out there. I actually first became a fan of psychedelic mushrooms, and I've never considered myself like a drinker. I don't party. I'm not this. I don't do raves and anything like that. It came across my history, more like a healing medicine, and in trying it, and I thought it was beautiful, and I loved the mushrooms, and I fell in love with mushrooms. And so I started kind of looking at all the applications of mushrooms, and I was fascinated by the medicinal, just not take let's put psychedelics aside and just look at mushrooms across the board that are edible, available to the public. There's a lot of medicinal purposes, and then as I went to the farmer market, like the flavor profile and the texture of mushrooms across the board blew my mind as I started kind of exploring that. And there was a guy at the farmer's market. I asked him if I could go to his mushroom farm, and I did. He invited me to go, and I was blown away by what he was doing. And and then I started experimenting with growing my own, and they grow so fast, they cycle so fast, and you can layer that cycle really quickly to where you're constantly producing in a small amount of square footage. And that's kind of what led me to growing these edible mushrooms, because like some of them taste just like meat. It's crazy, the textures.
Hmm.
So the exploration that is a food and multi-purpose it is just it's a no-brainer for me. And so yeah, that's where I'm really into the mycology, and doing it indoors in a. I have a mushroom tent that you gave me that is used for growing, and that's going to be the mushroom. That's going to be the mushroom tent.
Okay, awesome. You're going to do all types of mushrooms in there, and you can look at it through the
Yes.
big windows and show everyone what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And people, just from the little stuff that I do, people are amazed by it. So like, I'm really excited to get this up and running. Can't wait to have another show with you to give you a tour.
Yeah, I'll be there soon. Um, okay, sustainability. This is something you're working on, probably with a lot of things you're doing, but how important is sustainability overall to your business, and how have you integrated it into your organization?
I think I'm not just about me. I'm about the community, and I think this sustainability is a necessity for where we're going. And I think all aspects, from how you run your business to the business itself to the product. All of these things should be sustainable in every way possible. So, for example, you know, how close are my employees to their job? Can they take public transport? Can they just walk? What's the closest location? How do we create a circumference of the job to keep that sustainable, just them, right? And then,
Mm.
the product itself, like where are we sourcing it from and who are we sourcing it from? Like there are so many questions to ask in this that are beyond just the food itself, right? What practices am I using? Like I love hydroponics because the energy use is minimal, if not the lowest way to grow food. And the recycling of water. There's a lot of things that you can do, and there's new science coming out of what you can do to re-energize water. Like that is fascinating to me. And some of the old scientists that were the old sciences that were forgotten are kind of coming to fruition again. That's really fascinating too. I mean, there's a reason some of those old sciences were used for centuries, right? So how do we apply that to the sustainable practices that we use? So new science and old science mixing together, like that sustainability question, as you can see, I think is a really, really big one. And there's a lot of solutions if you're willing to dig and look outside the box. And that's what I like to do, is kind of think outside the box, look outside the box, and um, how many solutions that we can come up with where things are multi-use and multi-purpose. Like for example, the building that I'm in for Moto Belltown is a large enough building, and it's commercially viable that I can actually expand Moto Farm into it because of the space that's in there and the way that it's
Hmm.
um, uh, the way that it's zoned commercially. I can actually build out Moto Farm in it. So these are all practices that I kind of am, even though I'm thinking outside the box, I'm trying to put that in Moto in a box and what Moto is defined as far as sustainability. So there's a lot of practices involved in that are getting there. That's a big question, and I'm
Yeah, wow.
addressing a lot of things.
Yeah, very multifaceted. So
Yeah.
just outside of the robotics and outside of the, growing your own food, there's just so many other things you're thinking about.
Yes.
Um, that's awesome. So thank you for that. What is next for Moto Pizza? What are you willing to share with us? I know you're super ambitious. You've said so many things that can go so many directions, like potentially as a business opportunity. But what do you have cooked up next? Like, what are you thinking of today?
I,
What's on your mind?
I love the pun of what do you have cooked up next. Um, Yeah, I actually, in the legalization of marijuana and psychedelics, I'm already working with food scientists on creating a pizza line that is going to be marijuana based and psychedelic based. I think these plants are being abused right now, but it's a learning process, right? As we integrate it into our society. But I think there's a lot of healing potential in this, and I think introducing more people to it, I think we could start leaning more towards a healing society, which nobody argues that we need much more healing. And so, yeah, that's a big part of what I do. And because of the hostels, losing the hostels, like I said, everything is cyclical, and we'll be coming back around to a more positive place in time. I want to start building up the hospitality side of our business, but that is more like healing oriented. So, which we can go into another time. But yeah, so I
Yeah.
have a very big picture in mind of, and you hear me use the word healing a lot. I feel called to heal the world through food, and I think that's as I'm slowly walking more and more in the center of that path, that's kind of my big game plan.
If you don't mind me asking, is there something specific that may have happened that make you feel like you want to be a healer? Or is this just your passion and your drive? You feel like it's the right thing to do?
Yeah, I think it's through my own healing, like through my path of healing, and doing what I like to call doing the work, right? And that's kind of delving in who I am, how I interact with society, and what kind of impact do I have. Like I want to be, I want to be one of the good guys. I want to be a force of good and change in the world. And you know, it all, a very wise man said, if you want to change the world, be the change, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So it wasn't any one particular thing. It was just, you know what, if I'm going to be better, I need to help other people be better. I need to inspire people to be better. So I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm here to inspire people to change their own mind. And in all of this that I do, that's really my personal mission, is to inspire people to be better. And that really is what it boils down to.
Right. It's all about love and kindness, right?
That's right, brother.
Okay. Final question. I appreciate everything you've said so far so much. Is there anything you would like to tell our viewers and listeners out there that are thinking of starting to grow something at home, either for fun or as a possible food source?
Yeah, I think the first thing is get hold of Taylor and ask him questions and get his products because he has a lot of knowledge and on plants and growing and indoor growing, and he can help you get started. I think that's the biggest thing right there. But yeah. Everything you want to learn is on the internet, man. Just, you just got to have a little bit of drive and want to dig a little. And so utilize Taylor and his knowledge and jump on the computer. And if you're feeling it, jump in and do it. Just do it. There's simple ways that you can do it.
Yeah, I think on one of the videos you said, just get up and grow your own food, right? Just go for it. Is that kind of your message?
Yeah. Like, you can start small. Just sprout. It's so
Right.
easy to just sprout food. It's easier than cooking your own food to start sprouting food. And then, if that lights you up, it's just going to grow into what I'm doing.
Right. It just keeps on growing and growing. Yeah, it's having that no fear attitude and just, plant a seed. That's all it takes.
Exactly.
All right. Is there any other words of wisdom you can leave us with, Lee, before I let you go?
Absolutely. Always be kind.
All right, Lee, thank you so much for talking with us today. I'm super excited for your expansion and growth and continued, feeding Seattle and feeding people's hearts and minds. I'm looking forward to talking to you further. I really appreciate it.